everyone, this is Rafael Vila with Designer's Gate Case into Success, and today I'm going to record like I'm live streaming because this is going to be a premiere. I have a couple of issues trying to live stream. Every time I live stream, every something happens, or I forget to add a microphone, and the whole tutorial is all voiceless, or when I finish the live stream, the replay does not load at all. Only 30 seconds. That's specifically in Safe Chat. I contacted Safe Chat to see what's going on. But I owe you guys this tutorial, and what I'm gonna do, I'm going to record it, and then I'm gonna live stream it Premiere, so I can grab questions from the chat. Right now the chat is not gonna have any activity because, as I say, this is not a live session, and actually I can live stream, but I didn't announce it. So but as I said, this is long overdue. I'm gonna do the tutorial. I hope that finally everything works okay. Is creating an overlay for OBS, like the one you see on your screen, where you have the camera with the curve, uh, with the curve with the curve cut on the corners, around the corners, and how to do that, how to mask the camera, how to create the overlay with your logos, socials, and other stuff, all with Affinity Photo. Affinity Photo, as you see on the left, on the left, yeah, it's my left. On the left of the screen is an application similar to Photoshop. It does most of what Photoshop does. The only thing that is not, if your workflow depends on Photoshop 3D, this is not for you. For 3D, I prefer to use Blender, and the stinger that you see that I use is made on Blender. So check this out. So that I will probably show how to do it in the later video, not today, but because I'm trying to go through steps. I have promised to make a Affinity Suite tutorial for a long time, so I'm gonna start with Affinity Photo today. Everything that I'm gonna do is with Affinity Photo, and as I say, Affinity Photo is an application like Photoshop. You can make almost anything that you do in Photoshop, you can do on Affinity Photo except 3D. For now, because I saw something in Affinity Photo effects that is called 3D, but I haven't tested. I cannot say that it's the same thing. I don't think it will extrude or anything. But as I say, I had to test that out. But at least for photo composition, photo retouch, cleaning background, creating effects, all that delicious stuff that you do in Photoshop, you can do in Affinity Photo. But the most attractive thing of Affinity Photo is the pricing. Look, $54.99 one-time payment. You don't have to pay any monthly subscription or year subscription, and you have a powerful professional application that you can use professionally or personally for your own company. And it works on Windows, Mac, and the iPad. So you can start your project on the desktop, continue on the iPad, and bring it back. It's been in the iPad for years before Adobe decided to have Adobe Photoshop. And the Adobe Photoshop in the iPad is not the full package. Everything that you do on Affinity Photo desktop you can do on Affinity Photo iPad. Is a little different because iPad is designed for touch screen, while the desktop is built for a more traditional environment of a desktop environment. So every things are a little different. You can still draw and all that beautiful stuff that you can do on Photoshop. The pen support, I noticed that they added the support for the new Pencil 2 for the iPad. It has support for that, so you can double tap and it will change to the erasure and stuff. One thing that I haven't tested lately, if it has the tilt, if they have added tilt support for the pen on photo. I have to test that out, but for that, normally I use an application that is called something Painter in the iPad that it has a beautiful pencil feeling. It almost feels natural. It almost feels natural. But that's for another day. Today is Affinity Photo. I digress. So yeah, with Affinity Photo you can do basic anything that you are able to do in Photoshop. And today, as I say, we're gonna be creating overlays for OBS with Affinity Photo. So let's jump into it, shall we? Let's go back to the tutorial app scene. All right, so as you see, this is Affinity Photo. Affinity Photo, it has a feeling like Photoshop. I normally love dark mode, so but it has a couple of different modes. Right now you cannot see. I'm creating a new document, so I'm gonna switch it back to the main screen so you can see when you create a new document. You have prefix. These are prefix that I had presets that I already created, but you have a bunch of presets. If you're working with prints, you can do print. It has all the standards for Europe and the standard for US. You have the press ready, the same thing that is deals with probably CMYK and other stuff. Photo framing already set up, so you don't have to figure out what you're gonna do. It has, if you are doing some web design, it has some web design there. So today I'm gonna use the Full HD, and normally I change this to 96 pixel because it's more true to the size of real life. And for that I use this, change the application, select transparent background by default. So my preset is already here. Every time you want to create a preset, you just grab the one that you're working on, and then you make the changes here. Press the plus button, go to the preset, right click and rename. That's how you create your new your own presets. So I'm gonna select that because what I'm going to do is the intermission screen. The intermission screen, if you let me show you what I'm talking about, is this screen. So I'm gonna be creating a screen like this one where you have your shot, the camera on the lower corner, either left or right, that's your decision, and then you have a small version of the screen capture. So if you have a Q&A, this is the intermission page that you're gonna be using. Uh, if you want to, but at least this is what I'm going to do for Designers Gate. I already have it because, as I say, I have tried to do this tutorial a couple of times, and I have some issues. So I hope that everything today goes smoothly. So let's see how it goes. This is the final product. So as you see, we have some different a more noticeable shot area, and you have the logo, social media, the camera, and you have the main channel logo, and that's what we're looking for. So I'm going back to the previous one, the test one, and what I'm gonna do, I'm going to switch this from studio mode so you see what I'm saying. Before you go back to Affinity Photo, one of the things that I like to do before any project is that I set up everything on the screen, and then I take a screenshot of that and bring it to Affinity Photo, and then I start working in top of that. For example, what I mean by that is that I do this. I position everything that I have on the screen where I want it. I can, let me remove this. I'm gonna delete it from here, and that way I don't select it again. So I move the screen whenever I want it. Right now, let's see that I want to do. Let's do something different. I'm going to change everything. So I'm gonna bring this to the left. So I have the shot on the left, snap to the top, and I'm gonna move the camera to the left, and there I have the screen on the side, and probably put the logo in the bottom. Something totally different. So let's work with this. I'm gonna screenshot this. Real quick. There's a screenshot, and I'm going back to, let's go back here. I'm going back to Affinity Photo. I select the layer that I want, the 1920 by 1080, a full HD. How normally I am streaming right now. I'm not trying to stream 4K. Just let's start with the basics. And as I say, 1920 by 1080 pixels, 96 dpi, RGB, transparent background, and create. And you know that you have a transparent background because you have this checker style background that is the traditional professional design display of transparency. What we call the alpha channel. So now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna paste what I copied, Control V, and here is my screenshot, and that ugly guy there, what that ugly guy doing there. So I'm gonna position this, and probably I didn't make the screenshot very well, but that doesn't matter. I'm gonna use that. So this is my reference. This is what I'm gonna use to build on Affinity Photo. So I'm gonna change to the app, and next, what I'm gonna do, I'm going to break this in pieces, so I know exactly where the camera is. I know exactly what the chat area is, and I know exactly what the screen area is. So to do that, I you see, this is just a layer, and for those that are familiar with Photoshop, you can see that this is all what you're used to, a little bit different, like a mix of many things, but it feels mostly like Photoshop, that you have your adjustment layers, tab, layers, effects, styles, and stock. And then you have at the bottom of the layer tab, you have your mask, your adjustment filters, you have your effects, and you have your light filters. So in Photoshop would be the smart filters. And then you have your channel, the navigation. This is like normally Photoshop will look like. You have your navigation where you can zoom in, zoom out, and then you know exactly where you are in the screen. Transform the object if I want to change the scale, the rotation, mathematically precisely. That's where I'm doing it. The history, channels, and 32-bit preview, all that delicious stuff. All right, so now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put it in 100%, and actually I'm gonna and notice this, that most of the key bindings that you have on Photoshop, like key shortcuts, key shortcuts. For example, if I want to make the artwork fit on the actual screen, Control 0, and it will bring proportionally, it will zooming in so you can see the whole thing. For example, if you are like this and you don't know where you are, Control 0, and it brings you back. All right, so what I'm gonna do, I'm going to do a copy, and like in Photoshop, you select the layer and you say Control J and make a copy. You have one, and let's make another one. We have 3 copies. And now in Photoshop, normally you can apply some masking, and that's what I'm gonna do here. But what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna select the rounded corner rectangle, and I'm gonna select the area, trying to be as precise as possible of the sizing of the screen, what will be the screen capture in OBS. I'm gonna make sure that it doesn't have a stroke around it. When you're working with vectors, the foreground and the background are what the colors of the stroke and the fill. So the background will be the stroke, and the foreground will be the fill. So for example, if I change this to black, now you see that it changed to black. Now if I put white on that, then you have a line, a white stroke in there. Let me change that. And the same thing, if you make A, you select the selection tool, and A and B for the vector tools. So let's just keep the selection. And one thing I love from Affinity Photo is that I don't have to go to Control Alternate Space to move or anything. The logistic of the mouse, you left click to select, right click for menu, and the scroll button, you press on it and then you move. And then if you hit Control, zoom in, zoom out with the wheel, zoom in and zoom out with the wheel, and Shift, it goes side by side. You can scroll side by side. Normally the scroll by itself go up and down, and with Shift pressed it goes left, and then press the scroll wheel. I don't know how you do that on Mac, unless you have a mouse with, I don't know how that works on Mac. I don't have a Mac. The only thing I have is my iPad, and I do everything mostly touch in the iPad. So in that you had to take the tutorial on a Mac. Alright, so right now I'm going to be as close as possible to the edge of the screen. And then I double click so I can go to the edit tool, the node tool, and I go as close as possible, but with a curved. I notice it's not that close. There you go. Now what I'm gonna do, since I have that already done, then I drag the image, one of the images, and set up as a child. Look at this. If it has there's two ways that you can put an image as a child or as a transformation. So if an image has an alpha, if you put it on the left, when it highlight on the right, it's gonna use the alpha as a mask. If you put it as a child, then the image will crop to the shape that you have right now. Now this is an image that I can move. It's cropped, and I'm gonna do the same thing. When you open Affinity Photo, normally it comes like this. It doesn't have the rulers on the sides. So the way that you do it is exactly like in Photoshop, Control R, and they show up. That's to toggle the ruler. Alright, so I'm gonna guess where the top, because I have the crop. I have a green screen, so I don't know exactly where is that, but I'm gonna assume it's there. And the same thing here, I'm gonna assume crop is there. This is just for reference, and I'm gonna select that round, and you see that it's, because I had this selected, it's snapped to the guides and to other objects. So I'm gonna select the other image, and then I do the same thing. I put on as a child on that image, and now it's what you say, its own object. So now it does not depend. It's not one object like this. And I'm gonna grab the shot, and for the shot I'm gonna do the same thing, the rounded bottom. I'm gonna go a little bit outside, because I want it to be sharp on the top and a little curve at the bottom. So I'm gonna keep it like that, and I'm gonna select the third and last image and put it like that. So now what I'm going to do, I'm gonna remove this from there, and I'm gonna move this a little bit to the top. Let's see. Yeah, I can do it right on the guideline. I'm gonna remove this again, and move that there, and then I drag the image. Now I have all the elements like I want it. So what I'm gonna do, yeah, just keep it like that, because anything on the back behind the camera is gonna be on OBS, The most important part is just to create the overlay. So now that I have everything on the position that I want, and I brought it from OBS with a screenshot from OBS, so it's almost exactly where I want it to be. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to look for the images that I'm going to create, what I'm going to use to create the overlay. So for that, you either can go to your favorite stock images website, or you can use in Affinity Photo. They have two of the most popular that are Pixabay and Pexel directly on the application, so you don't have to go to the browser. So right now I come here and I put US flag, the beautiful American flag, and I'll look for the image, an image by Tim Mossholder, I think is how you pronounce the name, and then I'm gonna grab it and drag it from there, and it's gonna start downloading. That's a big image, it's like a 4K or 8K, that's more than 4K, and gonna just so the corners snap to the corners of my layout. And I'm gonna put it right over there, so it's kind of in the center. And now if I come back to the layers, I want to adjust this because for any reason today most photographs are like bleached and flat. They look flat. You don't feel that depth created by the rugged and the texture. So what I like to do is apply an adjustment layer. Now I can apply any effect directly to the image, but to do that I had to convert this into a pixel layer. But if you apply it directly, it's what we call destructive. If you don't want it to be destructive, you can just add an adjustment layer, and you can make as many adjustments that you want. And if in a later day or after you go visit a customer, the customer says, "Oh, I don't like that much contrast. Can you change that?" If you apply it directly to the image, you're in big trouble, because then you have to start over again. You have to try to remember everything that you did in the image. And I can show you an example of that. For example, if I go, I'm gonna copy this flag, Ctrl J, and I'm going to come here and say rasterize. That will turn it into a pixel. Don't worry, it's not cropped, so it's still the full image. Now if you select rasterize and trim, then it's going to crop it by the shape of your layout of your artboard. But right now I don't want to do that, because as I say, you start working with stuff. I just starting this. Probably later on you say, you see, you know what, I would like to move it a little bit higher or lower. So, but now that it's a pixel, look what happened. Let's hide this. Let's say that I just want to copy this section and use that as an effect or something. So I'm gonna select a marquee selection, and I select that, and when I say Ctrl J, you see that the image is still the full image, because it's an image. You cannot copy just part of the image. Before you can do that, you had to turn that image into a pixel. But now look what happened with the pixel layer. I say Ctrl J, And now if I deselect this, I just copy that. So that's the difference between the pixel and the image here in Affinity Photo. It's not in Photoshop. You can make a copy even if it's a smart object, but that's the difference here in Affinity Photo. So if you are used to do that kind of uh, action in your workflow every day, remember, if you move to Affinity Photo, that's the difference. I pull my hair many times, I, and I have to go to the forum and ask, and they help me, and they help me understand that there's a difference. The image is like a smart object that you cannot destroy. Once you turn it into a pixel is when you can apply. For example, I can select this, and I go to filters, and then I say sharpen or colors. Whatever. Let's do beginning. Exposure. I don't want exposure. I just want it like that. My cat is fighting, and as you see, the effect is applied to the center of the if applied in the center, from the center of the artwork, not from the center of the object. That's something that you had to consider every time you do effects directly onto an image. You had to bring that object to the center in some cases. So you can preview side by side. You can do that too to see how it looks. But once you apply it, that is applied. If you keep working and working and working and working, and you do more than 20 steps, if you're trying to go back to get rid of that, you already did the 20 steps undo. So you can increase the number of undos that you can do, but that will put a lot of pressure into your memory. But as I say, you can do that, or you can work with the image as it is, non-destructive. And for that, I use an adjustment layer. I go to select brightness and contrast, and as you see, it's gonna apply the thing to everything under that adjustment layer. To avoid that, I'm gonna drag this, and I'm gonna drag it until it highlight the side of the thumbnail, and I drop it there, and now I can apply the contrast, and now I can see more contrast. That's what I like. Now I don't like, because the only thing that I don't like is that the contrast, it just makes the color too bright. So I'm going to select another adjustment layer, vibrance, and the same thing. I'm going to drag it inside the image, and I'm going to reduce that vibrance just a little bit, not saturation, because I don't want it to make it look bleached again. And that's it. It's non-destructive. I can keep working, and if I had to go back and retouch, make some more retouch, I can go back there, select that, double click the brightness and contrast, and then I can readjust. Same thing with any adjustment layer. And for example, with light filters, smart effects, you can do on sharp mask if you want to make it sharper. Or create like a like a purposely distortion, so it looks like an all image. You can do that too here, or to chart blurry image. For example, if you have pictures of that you take with your phone, either either iPhone or Samsung or whatever you have, normally the images are kind of soft. With on-chart mask, you can sharpen it a little bit, controlled by pix by dot pixel. I think you can go from 0.1, 0.3 dot 0.1 pixel. You can adjust it so it can be really precise, but we don't need this. That was an example. So I have applied that. Now let's bring another image. I'm going back there and I say the Statue of Liberty, and I'm gonna use this one that is, I think it's from Pixabay. Yep, Pixabay. So I'm gonna drag it here. It's not as big. This is more like a 4K. This is a 4K. So I'm gonna reduce a little bit so I can see more of the statue, almost as close as possible there. That would be perfect, and that's a beautiful picture. I don't have to retouch anything. That's perfect. This one, I don't know why I see through there. I'm gonna take it a little bit outside. There you go. Now what I'm gonna do, I want to make the effect of this fading to the flag. So to do that, you select your image, and then you select a gradient mask and a gradient, and you do something like that. Oh, sorry. You had to do masking. You have to create a mask, and then you apply the gradient to the mask like that. And I don't want to fade from that far, so I'm going to move that. In a mask is a simply black and white image that it will create the alpha channel for the object where the mask is applied. In this case, it's the Statue of Liberty. And black means you cannot see, white what you can see. So the white is what it brings the light, and the dark and the black is what makes the dark for the fading, for the alpha channel. All right, so now that we have that gradient, a beautiful gradient, what I'm going to do, I want to bring an image that I have from the Constitution that I downloaded. See if I have it here. Yes, I'm going to bring that here, and I drag it directly from a folder in the computer, and I want the We the People to be, let's see something. Let's put all the wait. Let's put all the elements on the top so I can see where this is going to land. So I'm going to put that We the People right here, so it's not that obstructed by anything. And now I'm gonna group this. I'm gonna call it layout elements. There you go. Now I can hide it, all of them at once, and I'm gonna bring this. Just leave it there. I'm gonna apply a black and white filter. Same thing, when you drag stuff, they're drag as image, they're not pixels. So if you need to crop and all the stuff, the beautiful stuff, you had to turn it into a pixel layer. Right now I don't need to do that, so I'm going to set black and white, and I'm gonna drag it so it highlight the right side, and I'm going to make the red dark and the yellow light, so most of the letters are darker, but the paper fade a little bit, and I just still want to have that texture of that paper, so I keep it like that. And now I'm gonna apply an adjustment layer. In this case, I'm looking for something that who was it? Exclusion, subtract, divide. It's in a different position. What was the one that I used? I kind of like that too. I'm just playing around, so to see which one. There it is, divide. That's the one I want. So I'm gonna bring this here. You still see some of the paper with the people of the United States in order to form more perfect union. And now what I'm gonna do, I'm going to create, and here you gonna see something that I don't like, but I'm willing to live with it. I do miss that from Photoshop. Affinity Photo, if you can fix that, will be greatly appreciated. So I'm creating a mask, and look at this. So I'm going to do a fade from here. But let's say that I want to fade here. I cannot do that because it removed the fade that I just did in the top. So to do multiple fades, you had to create multiple masks. So now I'm going to select that. There you go. Now you have, in Photoshop, you just select the to transparent option, and you just keep dragging and dragging and dragging, and you can make as many as you want. Here you have to create a mask for each, which is annoying, but I can live with it. I'm saving $800 a year. All right, so I have that. Let's bring the elements again, because we the people can do that, but I'm gonna keep it like that. All right, so I got 3 of my main elements. So that means, except from the chat, I'm gonna grab this, and I'm gonna click on Control and click on the thumbnail. As you see, I'm highlighting the thumbnail. I click on that, and the thumbnail is selected. Now I hit the Control with Shift, and I select the thumbnail of the screen capture, and I select that. And now I have a selection of these 2 objects. I'm going to invert it. I'm going to hide the elements so you can see the selections. You have the selections, and I forgot. Well, we can keep it like that. So I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna select this and make it a group, and I'm gonna call it intermission layer And with that selected, I'm going to select to make a mask of it. And what happened? Oh, I have to bring this inside here. All right, so now, as you can see, this has become a hole. And that's what you want for to make the layout, because you're gonna put this in top of your screen and in top of your camera, and this what is gonna be the overlay, because it's overlaid over. You got me. All right, so I have that. Now I'm gonna bring another element, because as you see, if I show you real quick, go back to the chat, as you see, I have like around me, you see like a splat of ink splat around. That is, it got like splatted over the camera, and someone tried to wipe it up. That's how it looks. So that's what I'm gonna work on it now. So let's do that. So I am going back here, and I'm going to go back to Pexel, and I'm gonna search for art. All right, so in art, the first thing that I see is the splat that I used. So I'm gonna drag that and drop it here, and it's gonna tell me that is a photo from Dan Christian Padret. Sorry if I kill your name. So I'm going to select that image, and that one I do want it constrained to this area. And as you see, this is not a transparent object, so I had to make it transparent. All right, so let's go back to the tutorial. I have this scene, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the selection tool, that what in Photoshop you would call the magic one. Here is called the flood select tool. Let me put the PC screen. Is it the flood select tool, because it's European, so we had to say it with the flood select tool. All right. So I'm going to select the flood select tool, and I'm going to set it to 10%. I think it is. The percentage here, on the tolerance percentage, doesn't work like Photoshop, so you had to kind to readjust your perception of the select tool. Oh, by the way, I don't think you were able to see. All right, so let me keep working on this screen. So because when I double click on the adjustment layer, I'm gonna use that as an example, because you were not able to see that when you got adjustment layer. You have the adjustment screens. So sorry for that. I always forgot that when you have a window selected for in OBS, a window capture, it doesn't capture the pop-ups. I forgot about that, so apologize. All right, so this is what you see in the vibrance, and you can go back there and manipulate it. All right, so now I'm gonna select the flood select tool, and I'm going to select add, because this doesn't work like Photoshop. It's another annoying thing, but when you say add, make sure that you have your image selected, the layer selected. I'm gonna select Control D to deselect, left click to select, and for some reason this one specifically it takes long to select. I don't know why. I wonder why. Alright, so remember I have the add selected. If you have the new, it will remove all the selections that you did previously. So avoid headaches like the one I had working with learning this. All right, so I have that selected, and it was a pretty decent thing. That's a highlight, so I'm not gonna select that. So did a really good job. There are certain areas, for example here, that I'm not gonna put it on 12 or something because it's gonna eat too much. And I like that selection as it did it right here. So now this area, that highlight is supposed not to be selected. So what I'm going to do, I'm gonna invert that selection. Control Shift I. In Mac will be Command Shift I. And now I'm gonna select the marquee, and I'm gonna select subtract. And again. And now I'm going to add that highlight that has been eaten up, and for that I'm going to select the freehand selection, select the polygoner, and I say is selected, so that's what I want to do. So now that is added, and I remember there's something else here, so I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna add that to this. That one I don't care that much. So I have that selected, and with the marquee tool or whatever selection tool, you have this that says refine, and now you have something similar to Photoshop where you can see the mask how it's working. And right now this is trying to refine it, but it went out a little bit, and I don't like that. If you have hair, you can paint and it will try to grab stuff that does not belong to the hair. And now I'm gonna ramp it up, ramp it down a little bit so it doesn't select much of the outside. It's better if it eat up a little bit of the inside, and that's why I didn't want to eat up from too much from the original selection, because I wanted to feather in a little bit. I want to make sure that I don't see any light color, white color, and that looks perfect. And once you do that, make sure, remember to hit apply, because if not, you have to do it all over again. All right, so you apply that, and you see it has the selection. You clean up a little bit of the stuff. Some of the little ones will disappear, and I'm going to apply a mask, and voila, I have a nice selection. And what I'm going to do now with that selected, I'm going to make this a pixel, because I don't want the background. This is, I don't care if when I go back I cannot go back, because I don't want to make that clean up. I don't want to make the clean up again. So I will feel confident to make this, turn it into a pixel layer. And now even though it's a pixel layer, I will not apply any effect directly to that. I will always use adjustment layers, but I'm going to position it, and in this case I think I'm going to rotate it. It's not like the one. I kind of like that, how it wraps. Look, really nice. So what I'm going to do, you see it's not really nice. I kind of like that, so I select that, and I don't want all those colors. I just want to use the colors that I already have on the screen, and mostly that blue or probably the green. We can try something different, right? So for that, I'm going to select an adjustment layer called recolor. You see that it colors everything, but don't worry, because I just need to make an adjustment from this, and then I do the hue. That's similar to the color, and if I remove, then I made it light a little bit. It looks similar to that one, something similar, but I like the blue better. Yeah, you can still see the red, white, and blue. Like that. Yeah, I like that. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a mask in this using the camera. So I'm going to select that, Control invert. I'm going to apply that mask to this, and to make the like we have here, to make like we have here, I'm gonna delete a little bit of that mask, so some of the ink goes over the camera. So let's try to do that. All right, so I'm going back to the image. I'm selecting the mask, making sure that I don't have anything selected. Then let's put the black color here and the white color on the top. Select that, select the paint, and I already have a brush. But when you buy Affinity Photo and Affinity Designer and Affinity Publisher, they give you free stuff, and many of the free stuff that they gave you are brushes, and take them because they are really good. There's some brushes that are for vector specific, that are for designer, and there are others that are pixel bitmap specific, like these ones. So I already have selected, and it was this grainy acrylic. So how this work, if black, remove, white, add. So I want to add, and for that I'm going to reveal the objects, the layout objects, so I know exactly where I'm painting. Just like that. Doesn't have to be perfect. You can play around how you want it. There you go. So it kind of looks really nice there. Yeah, so the paint got in my face from time to time. All right, so now I have that. All right, so sure that everything is working as I want. I'm gonna put this on the very background so it has to, but the chat is the one that is gonna be floating in top of everything, so I'm gonna bring the chat to the top. Now for the chat I need, so I can see exactly what I'm doing. I'm gonna select this and I'm going to select the flood select tool with the image selected. I'm gonna click select tool and add. I'm gonna select that, and that's perfect. That's what I wanted. So I'm gonna invert this, and then I'm gonna remove the stuff that I don't want. Going here to subtract, subtracting that, subtracting my ugly face. Bada bing, bada boom, and mask. Let's remove something. There's something here. Alright, so mask. Alright, so that's perfect. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to select that object and make that 80%, because that's what I'm going to do on. So now that gives you a feel how it's going to look. Ooh, I like that. Yeah. So, all right, so now what I'm going to do, I'm gonna grab this object and let me see. So I'm gonna move it as part of that part of the layout, and you will see why. I don't need the camera anymore, and I can get rid of it now. So this one, I can get rid of that image too. I don't need it anymore. The only thing I need is the vector image, and I'm going to apply an effect, and I'm gonna put it. I remember. I'm gonna put it on this so you can see what I'm doing. I'm gonna select the outer shadow. One of the things is that in Affinity Photo, many of the things that you're used to in Photoshop are named differently. Like the magic one is called the flood select tool. The flood select tool. In here, drop shadow is called outer shadow. So I'm gonna do a drop shadow, and I want the shadow to come around this, so it gives that depth, like a cushion, but only in that section. So I'm going to increase the radius. The radio here goes up to 100 pixels, but this is a text box. As you see, this is a text box. You can change the value. You can change the value. For example, if you want to go further, you just put how much further you want to go to 100, and it will do it. As you see, I put a lot of intensity so you can see it. So right now it go all the way there, but you can go up, no, as far as you want. But 100 is okay for what I want, and I want to remove some of the less opacity, no offset, no intensity. There you go, something like that. And let's do something else. So let's see if I have. You see, this one doesn't have that. The other option that in Photoshop has, that make it noise. That would be cool. So as you see, there's many stuff that are not available, but who cares? Who cares? I can. I probably can make it possible some other way, but I'm not gonna test that here. It's gonna take me some time. Remember, every time you apply effects, this should be selected by default, because why you want to put an effect that when you resize the object, it doesn't resize with the object. If you find if you find any situation where you had to do it, then for me it would be more rare to do that than to select scale with object. 99.9% of the time I always have to select that, so make that a default. Probably in Europe is different. Okay, so I close and I have that, so it's looking good. That's the layout. Now I'm gonna select this object and I'm gonna apply also a shadow, the same thing, something similar. This time it's gonna be a linear burn. Increase the intensity, and I think that's enough. That's good. That's good. Good. Let's see how this looks. I didn't try this before. Bevel and elbow, not pillow inner, and soften, lap softer, so it gives you more add that 3D to the. I'm gonna select these two and instead of screen, and this instead of multiply curl linear burn, and increase the opacity, make it softer. Change this to color Dutch and less opacity. I think that's good. That's more better. That much better. Let's change this to add again. Scale with object, of course. That's it. Alright, so now we have all the elements that we want, and the only thing I don't like is that you're gonna see. I should have made it, but this is for just this example. I already made the one that I like. Okay, alright. So now that I have that, I make the mistake of not saving it. Not saving. You have to save. Keep saving. Tutorial offline. I'm gonna call this file, and then I'm going to save as a PNG file. Remember, as a PNG, if you want those beautiful shadows, do not save it as a GIF or as a TIFF. Well, you can do it as a TIFF, but it's gonna be extremely big, and you don't need that much to waste that much space in your computer. Just do a PNG, It's a clean art. It has a clean transparency. And export, same thing, tutorial outline. We do that. And one thing, if you start making the project and you notice that your background is white, or whatever color is a solid color, it's not transparent, it won't work. Even if you save as a PNG, make sure that when you come to document and select transparent background, just to make sure. If you keep working and you notice that at the end, oh man, I have a background here, is not like Photoshop. In Photoshop, the background is a layer, like doing this. So I'm going to make this white and solid and not. So in Photoshop you see this normally, this layout. If you remove the artwork background, so you have a layer called background, and if you want transparent, you just delete that and it's transparent. And here you have to select that. All right, with that cover, now let's go back to OBS. All right, so now I'm going to load the test. This is what we created. So in here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring that layout that we just created to see how it works, how it looks. And remember, it's going to post every time you add an object in OBS, it's going to add it to the top of everything. So I'm going to come here as an image and tutorial offline overlay. I'm going to call that object, and I'm going to browse for my new object, and here it is, and say okay. And now, as you see here, the layout that we created. And let's go back to, I forgot something. I forgot to remove this. I forgot to remove the image from here. But it doesn't matter. Look, when I save, Ctrl-Shift-Alternate-S is to export. Ctrl-Shift-Alternate-S, unless you want to save it in many different formats, you can use the export persona. And remind me that I have to talk to you about those persona, what that means. All right, so I'm gonna export this again, and same name. And let's go back to the test, and now it's removed because when you change it, it happens automatically, unless you have the studio mode. Then you have to transfer the changes that you made. But that's basically it. That's how basic it is. Now let's move the chat to the top, and now we have the chat, the real chat. If I go, let me show you, that is the real chat. If I go, to Telegram on my iPad, where is Telegram? Here in communication, no, didn't have it. Here it is, Telegram. I'm gonna look for this, and I'm gonna say Hello. Doing the tutorial offline. Check back tomorrow. We'll transmit it live at safe chat. Safe chat. I hit that, and there you go. Ooh. Now I have to fix that. You see? So I'm going back, and I'm not gonna move from this. So I'm going to make it like closer to the screen, and probably closer there to the saved. Control saved. Control Shift alternate save, export, save in top, and it should be fixed right now. Check it out. Check it out. Yeah, there it is. Now it's perfect. Now it's perfect. There you go. That's how you do it. And Google is listening to my conversation. Stop.
I'm designed to wait in standby mode until I detect an activation.
Stop.
Okay.
Thank you. Stop spying on me. This government, man. All right, so this is it. This is how you create your own layouts on Affinity Photo. As you see, it's a powerful tool. Everything that you do in Photoshop, you can do here. People ask me why you don't use GIMP. GIMP is free, but coming from Adobe would be easier to learn. The learning curve for Affinity Photo is faster when you do it when you move from Adobe Photoshop to Affinity Photo, because everything looks kind of similar. Many of the tools are easy to identify. For example, the fill tool, the blur tool, the healing tools, and all that stuff. They look kind of similar. So the learning curve is easier when you move to Affinity Photo. And for example, another thing, as you see, when I did the drop shadow, I can go back to it. It's similar to how you do a drop shadow on Photoshop. In the last time I tried GIMP, when you create a drop shadow, what GIMP does is that you have your object, right? You have your object, and when you create the shadow, what GIMP does is make a copy of that object and move it to wherever you want the shadow. You make it color overlay black, and then blur it. But when you leave the adjustment, when you leave the adjustment, it's just another layer. So if you need to go back to make adjustment to that shadow, you basically have to delete that old shadow and then start over again. So it's kind of like inconvenient once probably you have only to move few points to the left or to the right. Then you have to, you know what I mean. You have to start over again, so you don't know exactly. You probably can keep that shadow, match it a little bit, and play around until you see where it's actually that you want it, and then create the shadow again, and then delete the old shadow. But I think that's kind of a hazard, in my opinion. So, oh, the thing I forgot to add the socials and other stuff. I probably do that on another video. Then the next video that I do, Affinity Designer, I'm going absolutely going to do that. I just want to keep this tutorial short, and I already been in an hour and 25 minutes. So let's try just to keep it an hour and a half. So thank you for watching. I appreciate if you watch this video. I will transmit it live. I'm gonna premiere it tomorrow live. Since I already have it, I'm recording it. What I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna play it as it is, and I'm gonna pay attention to the chat tomorrow, just in case you guys want to have any question. I can pay more attention to the chat, since I don't have to talk and design and and do everything at the same time. It's changing scenes and stuff. You know what I mean. You know what I mean. So, well, thank you for watching. I hope you like it. Again, if you're interested on Affinity Photo, you can go to affinity.serif.com. Depending your language, photo, go to affinity.serif.com, and that, if you go directly to Affinity, you can see all the products there: Affinity Designer, Affinity Photo, Affinity Publisher. If you want to start one by one, that's perfect. And I forgot to mention about the personas. The reason that I consider Affinity Photo, Affinity Studio superior to Adobe, even though Adobe has been around for years and is almost is the industry standard for design. Affinity Photo gives you a lot of opportunities that and 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 better workflow than Adobe, because for example, Adobe didn't have Affinity Photoshop available for iPad for a long time, until last year I think it was. um, and it's not the full-fledged Photoshop. Is a touch version with some limitation. There's something that you had to have an app apart to do certain things. But in Affinity Photo, everything that you do in Affinity Photo, you can do in Affinity Photo iPad. So you can transfer your work. And as you can see, what I was saying about the personas, I'm gonna put the tutorial scene again. What I'm telling about the personas is that, for example, in photo, you have the Affinity Photo persona, you have the liquify persona, you have the develop persona, tone mapping persona, and the export persona. All the personas that are related to photo retouch and composition, all the stuff, exporting for different screen if you're a web designer, and those delicious stuff. Now, when you have Affinity Designer and Affinity Photo, and then you add to that Affinity Publisher, in Affinity Publisher, in the top, the personas, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna show you. I'm not gonna do anything on Affinity Publisher. I'm just gonna open it here. Publisher, Affinity Publisher, and okay. So I'm gonna show you the power of Affinity Publisher. And remind me, close. I'm gonna drag it here. No, I'm gonna drag it there. So now you see that in the top you have Publisher, you have Designer persona, and then you have Photo persona. So let's create a new document. document. Let's say that you're working with a with with letter with a letter or whatever. It doesn't matter. Whatever. You select one, right? So let's say that I'm gonna bring one of those pictures that I downloaded. Let me look for it real quick. My stock photos, pixels. Here it is. All right, so I'm gonna bring this here and just drag and drop from a folder, and here you have the image. And you see that it has the bleed, the margins, and all that stuff, because this is specifically for desktop publishing. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna crop this so it stays on the bleed. But let's say that you want to manipulate this. You need to apply. You come here and you say, oh, I can do a contrast here, so I can do add the contrast like I did in the other one, the other side, and I can come and say, and I do the vibrance, and I do the same thing like I did on the layout. But then I want to apply the on-chart mask. Since this is not a photo editor, then I had to open the photo editor. If this is in design, then I had to open Photoshop, and you know how long it takes to open Photoshop, right? So in here I don't have to do that. I just click on the photo persona, and it changed, and it give me all the beauties of photo. The only thing I don't have is the personas of photo, but every export and everything I'm gonna do it on a designer. Now I can come here and I say I'm gonna have a light filter on chart, and then I can apply the on chart mask, and not here, but here, and the vibrance stay here, and chart. So I apply, and you can see that I can do that. Once I'm done with that, I just go back to Publisher and I continue working. And the same thing, if I had to do a vector thing, I just click on Designer, and then I have all the beautiful stuff from Designer. So, and I don't have to leave this application for nothing. So that workflow has no match, not from Adobe. And not only that, I can save this file as an Affinity Publisher file. I save it. I can package it, upload it to the cloud, unless I'm working directly on the cloud. If I'm working directly in the cloud, I don't have to do anything. I just go to my iPad, open it from the cloud, open it on the iPad, on Affinity Photo or an Affinity Designer on the iPad, and I can still work on this. Even though it's a publisher file, I can still work on Photo and Designer, and it won't remove any master. Anything that I did there stays there. You don't lose anything because you open the file on the Photo on Designer. You don't lose the things that you added on Publisher. And that's, my friends, you can keep working on your project on your iPad while you're on the move. When you go back, you save everything is there, and you can continue and export and do whatever you need to do to finish to finish the project. That, my friend, at $165, one-time payment, unbeatable, unbeatable. I don't know. I don't care how much loyalty you have to Adobe, and I don't have how much money Adobe makes, and every service that they add, that they have added a lot of services that I never asked for. That, my friend, is top notch. That only sold me when I saw all that, because this is what we were expecting when Adobe said that it was gonna launch InDesign. This is what I expected from InDesign, because that is what how it was sold to me, that you will gonna have Photoshop, Illustrator, all in one. But it's not. If you have to retouch an image, you cannot do it on this InDesign. You have to go to Photoshop, retouch, and then refresh the image on InDesign. So, my friends, that's unbeatable. Yes, this is not as professional as InDesign, but it's good enough. I have a couple of friends that already left the subscription base, because this is unbeatable and beautiful flag of the United States. I love that flag, and the Constitution. Well, my friends, stand true to freedom. Don't comply to tyranny. We are free. We're a free country with free rights, with a Bill of Rights that protects the citizen, not the government. All right. God bless. Thank you for watching. I appreciate your watching this. Take care. Happy coding, happy designing, and happy gaming. See you next time.